Welcome to Wine Soundtrack International. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Alison Levine, and today I'm in Canelli, Italy. That's in Piedmont. I'm with Luigi Coppo of Coppo Winery. And Luigi, welcome and tell us about Coppo.
Hello, how are you, everybody? Thank you very much for being here. And so the Coppo Winery was founded by my great-grandfather back in 1892, and I do now represent the fourth generation, and I'm excited for the challenge.
So fourth generation, and as I said, we're here in Canelli in Piedmont. Tell us where we are and how many hectares do you have and what are you making?
So we're located in Canelli, which is it's in the province of Asti, in Monferrato. Actually, Canelli is like in the edge between two very important micro area in Piedmont, which is Monferrato and of course Langhe. So our production is definitely much more focused on Monferrato wines, I would say. So definitely our specialty is Barbera. That's what we're known for. That's why most of consumer call us Barbera specialists. We have different styles of Barbera, many interpretation on that. Of course, we're in Canelli, which is known to be as one of the Grand Cru of Moscato. So we produce as well Moscato d'Asti. But also the history of Canelli is extremely tight and with sparkling wine, with Metodo Classico wine, traditional method. The first Italian sparkling wine was produced here in Canelli back in 1865, and so that's the reason why my family still make different kind of sparkling wine. And now we're super excited because there's a new appellation coming up, which is an extremely opportunity to underline the importance of sparkling wine for Piedmontese people and for Piedmontese winemakers as well, which is called Alta Langa, and we are into this project as well. So there's a lot going on.
Fantastic. What are the grapes that you use to do Alta Langa?
So by regulation, we can use Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. Those are the two varietals that are we are allowed to use to make Alta Langa. Alta Langa, it's a very, very serious project, in my opinion, because it has a minimum requirement of 30 months on the lees in the bottle, and has to be a vintage sparkling wine. So I think that's an important message, to differentiate the sparkling with many different sparkling you have around the world, of course.
Absolutely. What is your total case production? Or bottle production?
Bottles production, it would be around 420,000 bottles a year, depending on vintages, of course. More or less, it's 400,000 bottles per year.
And your wines are available around the world?
They do. They are available. Let's say that I would say probably 50-55% of our production is absorbed in our domestic market, so in the Italian market, which make us extremely happy and proud of that. But also we are exporting our wines all over the world. We have a good distribution in the United States, for instance. Of course, Europe, Switzerland, Germany, all Scandinavian countries, and even Asia, Japan, a little bit in China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and Australia as well.
Wow, all over the world. So you're fourth generation and you've grown up in this. What is one of your first memories related to wine?
So one of my first memory related to wine, that's a kind of question that put me on the spot. So probably the really first memory I have to wine, it's when I was a little kid and I was running around the winery here. I remember my uncle Roberto and also all my family always want me to try the Moscato grape. because they're so sweet and they're so nice. And of course, little kid loves sweet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And instead of candies, my grandmother, from my mom's side, she really loved Moscato as well. So we were using to eat some Moscato grapes, and that's definitely one my first memory here at the winery. I remember it was harvest time, so it was like, baskets everywhere, all over the place, and of course I was, I was probably 4 or 5. That's really one of my first memory. And I remember that, of course, I was annoying everybody because you don't want to have a little kid around you when in harvest time because everybody's so busy. But definitely, that's how I get to know the Moscato for the first time. So, and I was immediately, I fell immediately in love with the kind of grape. It's very hard to don't fall in love with that kind of grape.
It's such a beautiful aromatic grape and wine. When you started drinking more wine and as you were growing up, is there one particular wine or experience that you remember having that really just kind of changed your mind or set you on a path where, it kind of raised the bar to a level that you're like, wow, this is...
Well, it's actually, this is happening almost every day. That's the thing that I believe that, drinking wine to me was a natural consequence of being part of a family that make wine. And of course, my palate has changed over the years, as everybody's palate. And if I have to pick one wine tasting, it's that really impressed myself. It was like probably 5-6 years ago. We had like a vertical tasting of one of our Chardonnay, and that probably was the time that I really realized how some of our wines are capable to age very well. And I really fell in love even more with that varietal, which, as you know, is not an indigenous varietal, right? So most of the people ask me why we're making Chardonnay, and to us means a lot because it was one of the wines that was imported by my grandfather Luigi back in the 60s and the 70s. And I think that was also sort of dedication from the third generation, from my father, from my uncles to my grandfather. I believe they really wanted to make a wine in honor to their dad, and that's the reason why Chardonnay, we started making Chardonnay back in 1984. But that tasting, we tasted, we went back like 30 vintages. And that was probably the tasting that really made me feel home. And really make me feel happy on what we're doing, and also give us a little bit more of, how can I say, the courage to keep making this kind of wine, even if it's a hard work, it pays back even after a year. So
absolutely. So if we were to come to your home and go into your wine cellar, whether it was a large cellar or just the refrigerator, what would we find in there? Would it be your wines, wines from the area, wines from elsewhere?
You mean at my cellar?
Yeah, what you personally drink or have access to.
So I love drinking Piedmontese wine for sure. So I would say that I keep drinking a lot of Piedmontese wine because it's you never stop learning. So and there's so many different. Piedmont is so much complex. The soil in Piedmont is so much complex that actually you can really you need an entire life just to get to know all the crew in Piemonte. But out of Piemonte, of course, I'm a big fan of champagne. Of course, who's not? I'm a big fan of Burgundian wines. I believe that Piemonte and Burgundy has something common. There's a lot of similarities. In particular, I believe in the way of making the wine, the philosophy of making the wine. As in Burgundy, in Piemonte, most of the winemakers are farmer, or at least they really know what's going on in the vineyard. and in the end of the day, this makes a big difference. Also, now I'm experiencing some new world wine, which I find very interesting. I think that the style has changed a lot. I've tasted some Pinot Noir from Oregon and Washington State that really impressed me. I've had some Riesling from Finger Lakes that I appreciate. I'm trying to take a look also on some New Zealand wine like Cloudy Bay, Chardonnay, Sauvignon. I think those are very interesting too. So I think that the vision of wine is not limited anymore in Europe and Italy, France or Germany. I think we have to open, think a little bit more out of the box and experience what's new. And take advantage of that and try to have more ideas, of course, being respectful of our tradition. But I think that's very important.
Absolutely. Traveling around and tasting wines in different places, who do you think, what culture, what country, or what region do you think gets to drink the best in terms of quality?
That's a hard question too. I think I think that American people are more and more educated in the last, I would say, probably 20 years, and I can really see that when I get in front not only of wine lovers or buyers, because that's what they should be, prepared.
Of course.
But also I've noticed more education on the consumer side, which is important. And probably the most knowledgeable market I ever seen is Japan. Japanese people are extremely precise, and they really, really, really go deep. They really study a lot. And I had questions that I've never expected, like is that hill on the side of that crew? I was like, wow, I don't know. I have to double check. So those, I think probably Japanese are the one that impressed me more in terms of knowledge. But I think that even the Swiss market, it's a very good market for premium wines for people that has a sophisticated palate. But then what's sophisticated palate? That's a big question too. And what's a sophisticated wine? That's another big question too. So,
well, I have a big question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you think there's a such thing as a perfect variety?
I don't think so. Honestly speaking, I don't think so, and it's a big question. I think there's a variety that probably are naturally more driven to make great wines. There are other varieties that probably you need to understand better, and I wouldn't say work on them because it seems like sophisticating the wine, but it's like you need to know a lot of the way of cultivating the vineyards and of course the varieties. But I don't think there is a perfect variety. I mean, I believe that there's always the human skills behind. And I think that that's the reason why history plays a big role, because we have to consider that when we make wine, we have only one shot a year, and we have to be very lucky that everything is in the right place. Otherwise, you can really screw the vintage. So,
absolutely. What is your opinion of wine critics and scores? I'm just going to keep giving you really hard questions.
No, try and really put me on the spot here. So, what do you want, like a diplomatic answer? Or
I want an honest answer.
I believe that even, scores are important. I mean, scores, like critics are important because people need to be educated. So I think it's important to have professionals. As in every job, you need professionals. And I have nothing against critics, What I'm seeing, and I think that the relationship between the consumer and the critic has changed over the years. So what I'm realizing, it's because the world has changed so much. Technologies, everybody has app, everybody has more access to information. And so that's why I think like back in the days probably it was more like a vertical relationship. You used to have critics and then consumers, and consumers had to rely yes or no to that specific critics. Right now, I think that it's not that vertical anymore. It's probably the other way around. So I think that there's critics that has been there forever and has very good experience and authority as well. And I think also there's a different way probably to get access to information. You probably know better than I do how much hospitality plays a big role in that. People now travel for wine. People now travel to taste wine. So even if they open, an important magazine, and that magazine said that specific wine is a 89 or 90 and not 98, but maybe they can taste that wine at the winery and probably they would like it better than a 98 wine. So I think it's really changing a lot. Of course, as I said, we in the industry need professionals. So industry need people that study, that has knowledge and also passion, and also giving suggestion to the consumer. That's very important.
Absolutely. So you were talking before about how the world is so much more open and people have so much more access and are drinking so many different things. So let's talk about you as a wine drinker. Red, white, or rosé?
It really depends on the mood. I would say the white, red, and rosé, and sparkling. So,
I like that answer. Well, then I was going to say still or sparkling.
Both. I would probably pick sparkling for my Friday night to begin. I would probably pick a red wine for my Monday. I usually drink almost every day, so just a couple of glasses, of course. You need to drink with responsibility, of course, but I love all wines. I mean, there's not a favorite category.
Right. And speaking of drinking wine all the time, you're Italian, so you drink wine when you eat. I mean, it's natural. So tell me how you approach food and wine pairing. Is it something you give a lot of thought to? And if you give any thought to it, what are you looking for?
Honestly speaking, I don't really give many thoughts on that. Again, depending on the mood, I first choose what I would like to drink, and then probably I choose my food after. So, pairings are important too, but sometimes it's just nice to try something different. You can drink a nice, easygoing, light body style red wine with fish, and you can drink an aged white with seasoned cheeses, or even with some when you have even with a steak, why not? If you like it, it's so. Pairings are important, but to me are 50%. Just
enjoy.
Just enjoy. Just drink the wine you want to drink, and have fun with that. And maybe you while drinking the wine, you understand that that's probably not the perfect pairing, and next time you go with another pairing. So really, it's really up to the consumer. The thing is, of course, drink wine. That's important.
So for somebody who hasn't had the opportunity to taste your wine, which hopefully that will change, but if they haven't had your wine, Coppo, what are they missing out on?
Well, so they're definitely missing out some specific wines from our region. So our goal is always trying to show where the wine is coming from, so respecting the terroir, basically. So let's pick one wine. If thinking about Barbera, it's hard to read because you can really have so many different interpretations on that, and which is not only relegated, as a table wine, but could definitely step up a little bit. So I think that nobody's missing anybody, anything. But I think that if they have the opportunity to drink my wine, my hope is that they can recognize that is coming from Piedmont, that is coming from our area. That's our real goal, our real objective.
And so, for space aliens, if they were to come here for the first time,
I like that.
You like that?
I like that.
Which of your wines would you welcome them with?
Wow, that's a great question. Which wine I would welcome aliens?
Yeah.
So they don't know anything about wine, right?
I don't know.
Maybe yes, maybe not.
Maybe yes, maybe not. Maybe they're nice. I think they're nice.
They're nice. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. So probably I will welcome them with a glass of Pomoroso.
Okay.
Yes.
That's one of your Barberas.
That's one of our Barbera. That's our full body Barbera, one of our iconic Barbera. I would probably welcome them with our Nizza. This is a new designation on Barbera, very important for this area. So I would definitely welcome them with a glass of Nizza Pomoroso, and I'm sure they will fall in love with the wine.
Absolutely. And they would understand the terroir of Piedmont. And speaking of the terroir and Piemonte, vintages. We're, coming up on a harvest. We're in the middle of a harvest right now. Yeah. Does every vintage tell a different story, or do you see more similarities from year to year?
No, I think every vintage is different. And we have to keep this in making our wine. Every vintage has to be different. Every wine has to be different year after year. I believe that that's the richness of our region and the richness of our philosophy as well. Mm-hmm. Let's pick the last 5 vintage, for instance. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and the one we just started. So all vintage is very different. Mm-hmm. So 14 was very wet. 15 was more a classic vintage. 16 was a sort of perfect vintage. I believe everybody would like to copy and pass the 2016. 2017 was very dry. So we have, according to that, we have different wines every year. Mm-hmm. But that's good. Because we're not making Coca-Cola, so we don't want to standardize our wine, and we want to keep our wine original.
Absolutely.
And respecting vintages, of course.
Are there any signs that you look for that will help you determine what a vintage is going to be like?
Well, of course, this is a great point. I believe that in the last 50 years, the wine industry has improved so much because of technology and different science technique. But I believe that always the human experience, the human skills are those that are really, really, really still the most important value. We have a say in Italian. It's like camminare la vigna. It's like walking the vineyard. And those people that walk the vineyard every day, they know their vineyard very well, and the signs are right there. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, there is analysis. We need to be safe. We need to provide quality wine, a safe wine to our consumer every year. So this is another important point. Healthiness. It's also very important. Wines. But for sure, the winemaker, the one that goes in the vineyard almost every day, can pick every signs right there. Mm-hmm. Right there. So I'm not the one that is doing this because I'm traveling around, but part of my family do it, and we have a winemaker that is working with us for more than 20 years here at the winery, and he's taking care about all the vineyard. And every time he said, "I need to go to the vineyard to understand what's going on, because if he miss a couple of days in the vineyard, he's losing something." So all signs are out there already.
Mm-hmm. Do you, as a family or as a winery, have any rituals that you do at the beginning of harvest?
Well, we usually, we're a lot. We're like 4 brothers and me, so we don't have a proper ritual. We usually have a ritual in the end of the harvest. Mm-hmm. So we usually, go out together, all together with all the team, and celebrate the end of the harvest. That's what we do usually, yes.
Yes.
And it's very common. Every winery does that, because harvest is really, really, really the busiest time, and everybody's putting so much effort, and everybody in the end is very, very tired, and so everybody deserves a nice dinner and at least a couple bottles of wine.
Yes, absolutely. Wait till it's all over.
Yes.
So when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up? Was this something you always knew you wanted to do?
Not really. I really always had... I was always really fascinated by my father, of course, I remember my father traveling, meeting a lot of people, spreading the word. So I think probably that was the best example I had in my life, for sure. So, but no, I mean, my decision starting working at the winery was very natural. Nobody, I didn't feel any pressure on me. And I think this is the real reason why I'm in love with my job now, because it was really natural. Mm-hmm. I had a different path. I'm graduated in business law. I live in Milan, so I took my time out of Canelli, and I have no regrets, of course, because I think that that was a very important time for my life too. Open your mind, it's always very important, and bring back new ideas. Mm-hmm. I think it's the key to, new ideas are usually the fuel for companies, generally speaking, and I believe also for wineries and for wine.
Absolutely. So when you're not working, what do you do in your free time?
I love to read, and try to read more and more, because and try to stay away from video, because we're all day in front of computer, iPad and iPhone, checking emails, and so I really try to avoid any kind of technology. So I'm trying to read and listen music as much as possible. I love to work out. I love to go for a run when it's a beautiful day out. Go to the gym and go to swim. I love to go to the coast in Liguria when I can with my girlfriend, and just relax, enjoy the nature, and stay out. That's what I really like to do, and hang out with my friends too.
So speaking of your girlfriend, when you're planning a romantic evening, what wines do you pull out for that romantic evening?
Probably.
What wines make for a romantic evening?
Well, again, it's we love sparkling. So usually the first bottle is a sparkling. So, and we love to drink. So usually there's a second bottle. So sparkling doesn't matter where it comes from, but usually me and my girlfriend drink sparkling wine. Yes. And
do you have a favorite sports team?
I do have it. It's Juventus, of course.
Juventus, of course. We're in Piedmont.
100%. Yes, we're in Piedmont, and not only that, but actually, there's no team better than Juventus.
So when Juventus wins, because I know they win often,
we're pretty good.
If you had the opportunity to present them with a wine when they won, which wine would you want to present them with of yours?
Sparkling wine, of course, for celebration. Alta Langa, all night long. All night long. I'm sure me and Cristiano Ronaldo will enjoy this very much.
So you were talking about your dad and how you watched him and admired him when you were growing up. Is there a piece of advice he or somebody else gave you that is one of the best pieces of advice you ever received, something you carry with you today?
Yeah, my father was always very... he really understands. And so everybody's suggestion here, just try, do it, and then because if you don't try, you will never know. So that's the best advice. So, trust yourself, try to make everything good, and then let's go.
And if you could give our listeners a piece of advice, what would you like to tell them?
Generally speaking,
Sure.
Well, it's enjoy your life as much as possible. Otherwise, you will regret. Mm-hmm. So do really what you want to do. I know that's the real richness nowadays. Do what you're passionate about, because I think one day, otherwise you look back and then would be sad. Yeah. So I know it's not easy. There's always compromises in life, but that's the real richness. It's more important than money, I guess.
So when you look back at the time you've spent here working in the family winery, what would you say is your proudest achievement so far?
That's a great question. I never asked myself. So I would say probably, keep the tradition, keep the winery in the family. Mm-hmm. Try to be, the next generation. Try to take over. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to do that, but I'm super happy that I still have my father and my uncles working with me. So that's probably my goal. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I ever
achieved it yet
or not, but here I am for trying.
That's fantastic. So complete this sentence for me. Yeah. A table without wine is like?
It's like, how can I say, a world without sun.
That's beautiful. Sad but beautiful.
It's melancholic.
So I want you to imagine a scenario that it's a restaurant. I mean, you're familiar with paparazzi, and the paparazzi capture an image of somebody from any walk of life sitting at a table, and at that table they're drinking a bottle of Coppo wine. Who would you want that person to be drinking your wine?
I would be honored if a great artist would drink that. Doesn't matter if he's a photographer or a painter or a sculptor, but for sure I believe that wine and art have something in common. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that those people that make art in different levels has the sensibility to understand artisanal wine. Mm-hmm. And I always really would like, and I always would love to think that my wines are consumed by people that really want to drink that wine. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not, but I would like to think in this way.
So, if you were being sent to a deserted island, what 3 wines would you want to take with you?
So, for sure, I would probably, I would get a bottle of Moscato with me. Mm-hmm. Because it's islands usually are very hot, mm-hmm. So you want something easy to drink, and then I would probably bring a bottle of sparkling, just because I hope that in that desert island at least I have a night to celebrate. Mm-hmm. So it would be nice to have a bottle of sparkling, and then of course. I would need a bottle of Barbera, because I'm sure that otherwise that's the only way to bring me back home, even if I'm not home. So, of course.
Well, so you were talking a moment ago about art and how you see a correlation between art and wine. Yeah. Let's talk about a form of art called music. Mm-hmm. And music and wine always seem to play a part together. And based on the wines you were just talking about, I want you to pair them with music. What you'd want to listen to while you're drinking them. This is your opinion. So, that Moscato.
So, Moscato probably, I would like to pair the Moscato with some beautiful pop music. I'm not a big fan of pop music, but definitely, Moscato to me has to be pop. The image of Moscato has to be pop, but in a serious way. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to undervalue the Moscato. It's the other way around. I think it's the wine that can really be popular, and so definitely a beautiful song of pop music. Sparkling wine.
Yeah. Should we say Alta Langhe, the new DOCG?
Yes, Alta Langhe, of course. A bottle of Alta Langhe. Probably I would love to drink the Alta Langhe with some nice, rock from the 70s. Some Zeppelin was one of my favorite, and even a little bit, even heavier, a little heavier. Uh-huh. I think it's nice. It's a good combination.
I like that.
And then, Barbera. we need an Italian song. We need a Paolo Conte song. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Paolo Conte, but it's one of the greatest chansonnier, Italian chansonnier from Asti, and he is well known all over the world. And I'm sure that Paolo Conte's music, as his brother Giorgio Conte's music, again, drinking Barbera, listening their music, I'm home. So absolutely.
I like that. I'm going to have to pick up some of their music.
You have to, really. You have to. You're missing something.
Well, Luigi, we're almost finished. I have one more question for you. Well, two actually, but one main question is,
yes.
Of all the places in the world, what's the top of your list, wine regions that you'd like to go explore?
If I would have time.
When you have time.
When I have time, I would probably. I really want to explore more and more, but I would say Burgundy. Mm-hmm. I really like their wine. I really like the way of thinking on wine, and also I really love the history there. So I'm a big fan of French wine.
That's where you be.
As an Italian, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to give I don't want to give to them. But of course, there's wine region there that's to me are outstanding, and I think here in Piedmont we had a very long history too. If you're looking over there, there's a couple of centuries, so even more. So it would be super nice to explore and have time to get to know all differences and people. It's all about people.
Well, while you start planning your trip, hopefully people will plan their trips to come visit you here in Piemonte. So just as a reminder, let people know where they can find you, and can they come visit here? How can they visit you?
So we're in Canelli, so in the Asti province. The winery is open 7-on-7 for tour and tasting. We would, as I said, many times to us is a privilege having people at the winery, because that's the real way we can communicate our message. The winery, it's worth it to see, because it has been recognized as a World Heritage Site, included in the UNESCO list from 2014. It's an historical winery that you can really brief the history of wine and Canelli in our tunnels, in our caves. So can't wait to have as many people as possible here.
Well, I'll vouch for that, because I got to go into the caves last night, and your cellars are old cathedrals, underground cathedrals.
Cathedral. Yes, that was the sort of nickname that was given because of the architecture and the light and the temperature.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, well, Luigi, thank you for joining us today. And just remind everyone your website so they can find more info.
Absolutely. So it's www.coppo.it.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a voi, grazie per avermi invitato.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack International. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.